Hey everybody, you're watching Reese Rides. So this is my first ride video on the 2018 Husqvarna TX300. The bike is running pretty good. It's running a little bit rich, even though I tried to jet it per the manual as best I could prior to going on this ride. It still was loading up a little bit, so I'm gonna have to do something about that. But otherwise, the bike was running great. I had a great time. I'm definitely glad I am switching from the 4-stroke to the 2-stroke, and actually just sold the 4-stroke, so now it's just me and the Husky. So anyway, you can see that there's a little bit of snow on the ground. This is a mid-November ride, and we weren't even sure if we were going to get out today, but we did manage to find some dry areas, as you'll see, and there's some snowy areas, and the snow actually added a little bit of a challenge, which was kind of fun. And I think we had a great time on this ride, and there was one thing that I learned right away, so I'll share this quick lesson before I shut up and let you enjoy the video. But I adjusted all my controls before I went out on this ride, including the position of my shift lever. And so when I first set out from the truck, me and Joe here, we were going along, and every time I shifted up, I got this sensation in my boot that some of you will be familiar with when you're shifting gears without a clutch, and you get that grinding gears feeling, that vibration through the shift stick. Well, it was coming through my boot, like through my shift lever. So I was thinking, oh my God, what, you know, I picked up a bike with basically a junk transmission. What is going on here? So I was thinking about it, and I stopped, and what I realized was that I had positioned my shift lever, I had clocked it upward so that I could get my boot under it a little bit easier, and every time I lifted up on it with my boot, I was jamming it into the chain as it was going by. So that was a simple fix, reclocked it down a little bit so that it wouldn't hit on the way up, but I could still get my boot under there, and away we went. So anyway, lesson learned, I figured I'd share with you. Hope you enjoyed this. This is just going to be a short snippet of single track, and enjoy the show. gonna talk a little bit through this video since the ride footage is not very exciting. It's just kind of flowy, and I'm not trying too hard, just getting used to the bike, but I wanted to at least give you a few of my initial impressions since it's kind of a tame ride video. So right off the bat, what I noticed was, aside from that grinding that I quickly fixed, was that, so first gear is kind of tall in that, you know, in going slow, you'll really have to lug it, but I noticed that even though it's tall, you can run it so far down in the revs that it's still very usable, and I don't think I'm inclined to change the gearing at all. It does have stock gearing, although it is an aftermarket rear sprocket. It may be an aftermarket chain, but definitely an aftermarket rear sprocket there. And I think I'm just going to leave the gearing as it is. First gear is super usable, and second gear you can lug pretty far down too. I took off a couple of times in second gear to make sure that I would limit my wheel spin on a couple of these snowy areas. So that has been really awesome. The electric start, I did have an issue at the beginning of the day. When the bike was cold, it didn't seem to want to kick over. It seemed like there must be a clutch or something in the electric start, because it was a little cold, and when I would hit the button, it would just kind of spin like there was too much load on it and it didn't want to overload the circuit. So then, you know, not really a big problem, just pulled the choke, jumped on the Kickstarter, and it fired right up. It's definitely a cold-blooded beast. It was about 30 degrees, I think, when we started this ride, even though we were in the sun. So it felt good to us, but the bike still ambient 30 degrees, so it was cold. So other things that I liked about the bike was that it handled really nicely. Obviously it was slippery, so it was hard to really compare because I've not ridden anything like that yet this year. So it was kind of a trial by fire first ride, getting the hang of the balance of the bike and trying to ride in these slippery conditions. But I found that while I was standing up, everything was pretty good. Definitely standing up was more comfortable than sitting down, just in terms of controlling the bike. So I do like standing on the bike, and I did get higher bars for the bike, so it made standing a little nicer than having to bend over. So the riding position was all pretty nice. I mean, I didn't notice too much of a difference, although it has been several weeks since I've ridden any bike really. So another thing, I'll just talk quickly about all the things that I put on the bike. You can see that I've got some bark busters on there. So those came with the bike. Those are the Moose full wrap handguards, and they're essentially the same as the Enduro Engineering ones that I had on my other bike. So those came on there. I put the full wrap lower fork tube guards on there. So I got those from Trailbound Co., you know, Chris at Trailbound Co. So I got those put on there. I got Polisport swing arm protector on there. You know, it's kind of my standard equipment to protect a swing arm. It already came with frame guards, so I didn't do anything there. That's really about it for protective gear, I think. You know, just covering those basics. I still don't have rotor guards or anything like that, which I may run in the future. I'm still working on that. I might get some fork shoes for it to cover the bottom of the forks, make sure those don't get rashed up. But that's really all right now. And like I said, I'm probably going to make some adjustments to the jetting. May end up going with Electron. I think that's the route that I'm headed right now, just so that I can get better fuel economy and not puke as much fuel out, because I did notice at one point we stopped and we were on a bit of a hill, and when I put the kickstand down, the kickstand was down on the downhill side, so the bike was leaned over a bit further than it would on flat ground if you put the kickstand down, and it was just puking fuel out, and it wasn't even that steep of a grade. I mean, it wasn't steep enough to where the bike would fall over, and I didn't even think it was that steep, but I'm not that familiar yet with carburetors, you know, from years past having carburetors, and so it was puking out, and so I ended up having to turn off the fuel, which is not a big deal, but I'm I'm under the impression that the Electron carbs don't do that. So I'd like to increase my range, not have to mess with the carb as much to make it run crisp, and not get that puking of fuel. So I think those benefits in themselves make it worth it for me. So I think that's the next addition for this thing. So if you have any questions on this transition, there will be more videos, but definitely ask me questions in the comments if you have any. So we'll see you on the next one.